This tutorial is going to show you how to correct the perspective in photographs using the lens correction tool in Photoshop. As you can see here, we have two images opened. One is of a tall building and one is of a plaque. First, we're going to have a look at the plaque, as this shows us more obviously what the lens correction filter does. After that, we're going to look at these buildings and apply a more subtle lens correction to them. You can see in this image of the plaque that it has been shot from closer to the bottom, which makes the top of the plaque seem smaller and the bottom seem larger. We're going to use the lens correction tool to correct this photo so it looks as if the image of the plaque has been shot from directly above. The first thing you're going to need to do is make a layer from the background. Double-click on the background layer and click OK. Now click Filter and then click Lens Correction. In the lens correction window that opens, on the right, click the Custom tab. Then at the bottom you will see the transform area, and the one we are interested in is the vertical perspective. You're going to want to drag the pivot and move it to the left. As you do this, you will notice that the perspective on the picture changes quite dramatically. You will also notice that it might no longer fit in the preview window on the left or your canvas. You can use the Scale tool in the bottom to make everything fit back into the preview window and also your canvas. You can see here that with a vertical perspective of -56 and the scale at 72%, it does look as if we are looking at the plaque from directly above. You can get an idea of how straight the corners of the plaque are by using the grid lines. As you can see here, it looks pretty good. When you are happy with the results, click OK, and you will notice that the image does appear of a much better quality than it did in the preview window. This is because Photoshop has spent time applying the transformation. Now we are obviously left with some transparency around the image, as the resize has left the computer without data. What you need to do is select the marquee tool from the panel on the left and drag around the plaque, making sure that it is nice and tight to the plaque so none of the transparency is shown, and then click Image and then Crop. And there we go. It now looks as if we are viewing the plaque from above rather than from the bottom. Now that you have an idea of what the lens correction filter does, let's apply it to a more common situation, which is where you have taken a picture of some tall buildings. Here you can see that we have two buildings located in Canada Square. These buildings look as if they are leaning back because the photos are taken at the bottom with the camera pointing up towards them. You can see that the lean on the HSBC building appears greater than the lean on the other skyscraper. What you're going to need to do is click Filter again and then click on Lens Correction. Because of the difference in lean between the two buildings, one is still going to have some lean afterwards, and it is going to be HSBC because its lean is more significant. Now, go down to Transform again. Find the vertical perspective pivot and drag it. You will notice that the buildings quickly become larger and move outside of the preview image, so drop the scale a little and let's continue to adjust the vertical perspective. Now you can see that the building on the right matches its vertical lines with the vertical lines of the grid, but HSBC still leans back a little. Now, for your photograph, it really is just a matter of judgment for what looks right. Personally, I think here, bringing the building on the right to be straight and leaving HSBC leaning a bit on the left looks better than having HSBC straight, because that makes it look as if the other building is leaning forward rather significantly. Let's click OK when we have the perspective that we want. Once again, you can see that the rendering has improved in the main image, and also we are left with an area on the photograph without data. You will notice that because of the nature of the photograph, we can't crop it perfectly without losing the edge of the buildings, and that's because of the perspective. Crop what you can from the image without removing any part of the buildings. Then, from the menu on the left, click on the Magic Wand selection tool. Click into one of the blank areas, then hold down Shift and click into the other blank area. Now press Shift on the keyboard and Backspace. In the fill window that appears, click Content Aware from the drop-down box and click OK. You can see that once we press Ctrl and D, the computer has done an incredible job of filling the space with what it thinks should be there, and unless you look very closely, you certainly can't tell that there was something else there before. This leaves us with a very nice result, and you can see that the perspective of the photo has really improved. That was a basic introduction into learning how to use the lens correction tool.